First off, I want to welcome you to Hayes Tech, and today we're going to be looking at the Insta360 Link 2. Now, I'm a big fan of cameras, whether it's a webcam, a DSLR, mirrorless full frame, you name it, but I really like webcams, and the reason being is I just don't want a mirrorless or a DSLR on top of my Mac while I'm recording, and I just like the idea of a really good webcam. Do I use them? Honestly, not as much as what I should. What I use on my day-to-day setup is an A6700. However, when I record these videos, I get these because I just want something to replace it. While I know that the sensors, although they're both the same on this, they're not going to compare to a DSLR. I even did a review where I compared this to an A5100, which is, I don't know, 5 years old. So I'm not going to show you what's in the box. We're just going to jump right into it, and I'm going to show you a comparison side by side, comparing the audio. Just if you have not watched any videos, I'll tell you now, same sensor between the both of these. 3-axis, 2-axis, and you can get this where there's no axis. It's just the 2C, which doesn't have the gimbal built in. But this, again, was $100 more expensive than what this is brand new. And I think they're still selling this for $20 cheaper than this. So that goes to show you how good of a product this actually is. So you do get a USB-C inside of the box, but we're not going to be using that. We're going to be using this guy. You guys remember when I did a review on that? I posted a link in the corner there. Fantastic USB-C. We'll just leave that extended for now. Just like most of the videos on this channel, I purchase 95% of the stuff. And my integrity is never going to be in question, whether a company sends it to me or I purchase it. But, you know, with that being said, let's just compare these two side by side. Now, on the mount itself, we have this little piece that comes out, but this is what's magnetic, not the rest of this. So if you try to put this on here, it's not going to go anywhere. It just kind of snaps on there like so. Then you're able to really move that about and kind of line that up. I wish it really set itself in place. I mean, you do have these contacts down here on the bottom, so you would think that that would somehow grip it in that specific spot, but it does not. Well, it's not entirely fair for me to compare the two of these side by side because one has the mount built in while the other one does not. It is important to note, though, on the Insta-Link, you have the 1/4 inch on the bottom versus this, you actually have to use this large apparatus in order to use that 1/4 inch. I could have just added it on the bottom or just kind of built that in. It's a little upsetting, and then your USB-C there is on the back. So as soon as I plugged it in, I do have to update the firmware on it. So we're going to roughly wait about 3 minutes, and then we'll bring it back once this is done. Something that I want to show real quick, though, that I find interesting is you would think that if you mess with this HDR, essentially that's going to kind of clear me up. It doesn't really do much of anything in the 4K. Now, here's what's funny is when I put it in 1080, nope, let's go 1080-30. If we go into 1080-30, what you're going to see is that HDR is absolutely garbage. Now, if I untick it, it looks good. But here's what's funny is when I go to 1080-60, watch what happens. It automatically makes me darker. It kind of cleans it up. You would think that 60 frames per second that it wouldn't do this. I don't know many cameras that do this. And then HDR. So it's almost like it doesn't want me to go in 60. But if I bring the lights up in here, it'll do better. But however, at the 30 frames per second, it seems to be capturing more light, which is fascinating. And so I guess we're going to be comparing the 4K 30. These two are side by side. This one here, okay. So the one on the left is the Insta-Link. The one on the right is the Insta-Link 2. And you can kind of see the differences. I can tell you just by looking at these, the Insta-Link 2 is, in my opinion, a little bit more crisp than the Link. But the Link is an older model, but they're both essentially the same sensor. They're both set at, just have to recheck this, but they're both set at 4K 30. One of the things I point out on 2C is that it actually has group tracking. I don't have multiple people in the room, so I don't need that. But I guess instead of buying multiple webcams, you could just have one. And I know it's a little weird having the two side by side. But before we do this, let's test out these microphones. On the Link 2, there's 3 different audio modes. You have voice focus, which it's on by default. There's no way to uncheck that. Voice suppression, music. I'm not going to test either of those other two because, well, and I don't play, or do I want to get copyright strikes? So I'm not going to play music for you, but you get the idea. And then this here is the Insta-Link audio, which has no settings in the back end as far as voice suppression because it doesn't have AI, which seems to be taking over. This microphone is probably much clearer as this is my DPA shotgun microphone. So if we're looking clear cut out of the box, how do I compare the two? First off, The one that you're looking at now is the 2. I think it is better. Is it worlds apart better? No. It is a little bit of a cleaner image. However, you don't get that same type of clearance. Now, if you use a bar light on the top of your display for a desk or whatever for the blue light, this is going to have a bit of an issue. I have to essentially lower that down all the way just so I could get that clear cut. Now, on the original Link, I didn't have to do that. They both have the same sensor. However, I feel in the 2, it's that much better. Now, I'm not going to compare the 2C because that doesn't have a gimbal, and I'm not really worried about that. The tracking on this is essentially the same as the Link, aside from the group tracking, which I don't really care about. You do get that little touch button on there, which honestly, I only care about the audio and the video quality. The touch, I'm sure there's some type of sensors, but honestly, if you were to ask me which one that I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with the original Insta360. And it's the quality, I'm willing to sacrifice that because I get the clearance of it. And again, the price of the Link is $179 versus this is $199. Now, when the Link came out, it was $299. But they lowered it down because they just dropped this. There is better quality in that, and if you don't have to worry about a light being on top of your display, then yes, I would recommend the 2. But as far as my concern, I'm going to go with the original Link. It is good. It is. It's just that once I put this up to where it needs to be, you kind of see that bar at the bottom. Let me just move this so you can see what I'm talking about with the bar, so you get a better idea, because me just saying it is not going to do you any better. So that's the bar right there. You get the idea. It's a bar that goes all the way across, and then there you go. There's your Link right there. So it really comes down to whether or not you want something for low light or something for more light. For low light, I'd recommend the 2. If you want something with more light, meaning that you have more light coming into the room, I'd recommend the 1. The 1 has the option for HDR. The 2 does not. That's interesting because high dynamic range, you would think that that would be an option for the newer model. If you have a camera that you want me to review or a microphone, let me know in a comment down below and I'll get to it. Stay beautiful. Make sure to subscribe.